Welcome back, Warriors. Here we are again today. Oh my goodness, we got something really good to talk about. We are going to go over some of the things when you're getting out of the military. You got to go deal with the VA and all of that has to do. So, without further ado, Warrior Waldo, what do we have on the VA as it pertains to what's going on with the individual who's getting out of the military?
Well, first of all, for those who are getting ready to get out, I would tell them the VA has gotten exponentially better than what started. But then, when you compare it to more civilian healthcare systems, we still got a long way to go.
Okay.
I know people, personally, civilians, who have civilian healthcare. They can call, make an appointment with a new doctor, get it next week, and get a progression of appointments within the next month
Oh, okay.
to get seen for everything they need. First of all, I think we talked about in an earlier video about going to a VA advocate and getting everything documented that went into a that happened to you during your military service. So
Right.
you can prove that it happened during the military, and we talked about the importance of doing that. Well, that's going to carry over when you start trying to get VA health or care from the VA health system once you've retired and been medically retired. Compared to the civilian system, and I'm just going to use myself as an example. I'm sure
Sure.
many people can relate to this. It took me 6 months just to get an initial appointment. I was designated PCM right away, but it took 6 months just to see them. You see them. It's about an hour. They did a full you know preview of what was going on with you. I talked about back issues. I talked about headaches, sleep issues, pretty much everything that was going on with me. And he went through and said, "Okay, I got it in the system. They'll should be calling you to get all your appointments up, get you looked at." And I walked out of the room thinking, "Okay, got this ball rolling." It took 4 months to get physical therapy for my back. I got they finally initiated me on medication for my headaches 6 months afterward. It
Six
took
months.
well over a year for mental health to finally get a hold of me so I can get the VA system.
A
It
whole
took
year for mental
the
health.
entire because it had to do constant reminders. Now my PCM himself is awesome. Once I got that appointment in 6 months in, he scheduled me every 3 months to see progression and all that.
Yeah.
But every time I go back to see him, I said nothing's been done yet. Well, yeah, and I got an appointment. It took a year to get an optometry appointment. I get them every May. It took a year. And when I tried to have one rescheduled, they're like, "Yeah, we're pushing out to October. You can reschedule yours in October."
What?
The VA system is so far back from the regular healthcare system. Like I said, it's made advancements. It's getting better. But I think we talked about how in the future they're going to be increasing appointments, maybe going into starting of Sunday, increasing the amount of doctors, amount of visits per day. Maybe it'll curtail some of that wait time some. But the wait times are absolutely ridiculous for the stuff that we earned while going through during service for us to now get health care and get them taken care of.
Right.
Now I know me and you have talked about some years. I'm sure you got examples of having to go through the same thing.
Unfortunately, yes, I've also had some uh, unfortunate events happen with the VA. Something that through our conversations we've had over the years is making sure that you get that stuff documented and it stays documented, because if you got messed up in the military, theoretically that should just carry over to the VA. That doesn't always happen. So ah it's best, for my own recommendation for all you warriors out there, and I'm sure Warrior Waldo will agree, make sure you got your stuff on the record and you have your own records of the records, so you don't have to. People lose stuff. The VA is a huge healthcare, nationwide healthcare system. Given that, you also come into the thought process of, hey, maybe they're so big, things get through the cracks. And if you go with that thought process, you can go do some of the stuff that you need to have done, have it in your hand, and then years later you can say, hey, I've already done this. Look, it's all right here. You may not have it, but I still do. That was something that I've learned recently, is to have everything. And you're right. We have talked about it in previous videos, Warriors. Check those videos out if you haven't. It's really important for your health, to get seen by individuals who, at the very least, know what's going on with you. While a civilian doctor can help, they're not dealing with PTSD or some sort of trauma victims from war. They're not dealing with them on a regular basis, whereas the VA does. That's one of the good points of the VA. We have bad points and good points. Point being here is, get your stuff, make sure you put it in a good spot in your place, and if there's ever any questions, you have it all. And I think that's something that really helped me get through my day was, hey, you need to get your stuff on record and keep those records because people lose it.
Right.
So
you had both TRICARE and VA.
I do, yes.
What were the differences that you noticed between getting help through TRICARE and help through the VA?
Initially, they're about the same. If you try to go to, let's say, a sleep doctor, that seems like, I can't go to sleep, got too many nightmares, bad memories, blah, blah, blah. Oh, hey, I end up having some sort of sleep diagnosis in addition to that. It's one of those things it's important to have on there. Is what else can be important to have those documented? What are some other things, like having your sleep documented, or getting a sleep study, or people who snore? That's a part of sleep apnea, which is steals your sleep when you're sleeping. What are some other things that we can recommend to all the warriors out there, saying, hey, if you guys can just keep it all in your head, keep it all in your heart, and go do the good work and go through it as hard as it is. What are some things that we should know? I'm getting out right in 2 months, let's say. Warrior Waldo, what do I need to do to make sure that the VA knows what's going on, I know what's going on, and making sure those two go together?
Right. There are two main things you want to need to do. First of all, and this normally is part of people who get out of the military. It's part of their the process of getting out. Is you've got to go through the VA advocacy to get everything that happened to you documented.
Right.
But before you do that, you need to go to the hospital while you're out processing and get a complete copy of your medical records.
Okay.
They're now doing them digitally now. They hand you a disc, and everything's on there that ever you saw a hospital for. Yeah, stomach ache, whatever it was, will be on there. You take that disc over to the VA advocacy and you make your claims. They will go through that disc and bounce those claims off which you actually went to the hospital for. If they find any connection, then you will be compensated for it until they'll give you care for it. They actually found stuff that involved my feet that I didn't even know. I didn't even talk about claiming.
Really?
He came back to me, hey, what about this stuff over here? Maybe about 10%, compensation. But hey,
it is what it is.
Yeah, and also it was something that got addressed immediately. This goes into progression of care and why getting these records from out processing out of military into your post-military life is so important, because what the VA likes to do is they like to start at the very ceiling, or excuse me, floor, and work their way up a progression. That could be a complete waste of time. It could be years waste of time.
Ooh, years.
You're sitting there and you were getting, let's just use sleep for example. You did a sleep study, and you went through and you got your CPAP, and they found out you're having all these issues. And all of a sudden you go to the VA like, well, yeah, this is what's been going on. If it's not documented right away, or it got misdocumented, guess what they're going to make you do? They're going to make you start from the very beginning, and sometimes it takes years. I'll give you my example. Back issues. And I was getting traction while I was in active duty.
Okay.
Even though that was even documented, still, I went, and this took over a year when I finally started going to the health system to start working my way up. They went back to start having me do exercises again, and stretches and all this stuff I had already gone through that did not help me. It didn't show any progress then. Well, I'm having to do that again for physical therapy before we'll even start going through traction, and then as you work your way up, it's going to become your own choice if you want to go through surgery and that.
Sure.
Back surgery is an entirely different thing. I've heard horror stories about it. I personally would avoid it from what I've heard. But to get there, you're looking at sometimes years, because it takes so long to go in between appointments. You're looking at years before you finally get to where you need to go. To get back to where you were when you were in, active duty. Active duty healthcare was a whole lot better. It was a whole lot faster, and seemed like it had a whole lot more common sense connected to it. I didn't know the VA, because it is a government affiliated program, that they're stuck to certain processes they have to do.
Okay.
To make you work their way up before they can just say, because obviously you don't want them to say, I got a headache, got brain surgery. You want them to work their way up, find out what's causing it. But at the same time, if you know you've already done it, I've had Botox before. I know it works. Well, I don't know. We need to start working from the beginning before we get to Botox, and sometimes it could take you years before you get to that point, to the thing that actually that worked. You've told them it worked. You have it documented that it worked. And they start from the beginning, and the progression worked really slow. Examples as far as that.
To me, they always move slow. So that may be the high speed, trying to just get everything done in my head, which is not their fault. That's definitely a me issue. Some of the stuff can go really quickly, but as you said, I don't want to say most, because there is quite a bit of times where I have gone in and said, I have a shoulder issue. I tore my labrum in the military, so can I get this looked at again? Maybe I need some stuff. And it didn't seem important to them, from my point of view. It didn't seem important to them, so it took me another 5-6 months to get x-rays, to get them, what is it called? You analyze the x-rays. There's some sort of name for that, I forget. And just, it like you said, you have to start from the lowest level and continue to go up, when they already knew that I already got my stuff messed up in my shoulder. I don't know. Let's go with the sleep situation. I got out. I got a sleep study. I'm a angry individual, and I smashed, or whatever the case may be. I smashed the piece of equipment. Yes, it was a while back, but why wouldn't they have those type of records? I don't know. It just means I have to do it again, right? Because, as you said earlier, you need to have your stuff, and if it's on a disc or if it was paper, depending on when you retired, and I didn't. So that's my issue. I should have had the knowledge, or I could have taken some videos like we're doing right now of other people, and gotten that help that way to know, hey, you need to document every single thing, because if you don't, the only person you're hurting is yourself.
Right.
And that almost is scary to me, because my laissez-faire attitude towards my sleep situation, hey, I can drink a fifth and go to sleep. That doesn't mean I don't have a sleep issue. So prioritization is definitely something that all of us warriors need to do. And if we don't do that, then it can end up being, again, like my horrible example of drinking a fifth just to go to sleep. We don't need to do that. We don't need to hurt our bodies that much just for sleep. There's better
Especially
ways.
if the VA is dragging their feet. You get your sleep study for 6 months. And you tell them, look, this is what I'm having to do to go to sleep, And they're like, you get in line.
Yeah, cool, bro.
So,
Just
outsourcing is something that I remember we're reading about improvements that's going to happen in the VA in the future. And if they can start outsourcing more appointments, and maybe the time like between appointments will shorten. Like mental health care, for one, I know that they're doing some outsourcing now. Thank God. Because there's some really good ones out there. There are civilians that are being paid by the government, but they're not beholden to the government. They're just being outsourced to do it, and they do their own thing. There are other. I haven't personally gone through one yet, but I've heard of other. Maybe there's outside sleep studies. There's outside back doctors who can help you with your back and all that. Maybe help progress.
okay.
My fear, though, is that it's going to take just as long to get that appointment scheduled, because of the slow process of how the VA schedules and make appointments.
Sure.
It's like they can pick up the phone, get me an appointment done tomorrow, but why is it going to take me 3 months to pick up the phone?
Yeah. Well, and to wrap this up, we want to make sure that everybody knows, get the stuff documented. We've said it in previous videos, Warriors. We're saying it again for a reason. Get your stuff documented so you don't have to deal with some of this other stuff. Thank you for your time. We'll see you on the next